Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live with Janome. This is the Continental Club and Ann Hine. I'm just trying to find our video on the Facebook page here. So there, I just got that. And then I'll put the camera on in just a moment. Let's see, that's all working good. My comments are on. So let's go ahead. I'll get the camera on. There we go. So welcome, everyone. It's great to see all of you. I'm not sure who we have out there at the moment. Let me get this back on. My comments are there, so there's a few people out there. So today we're talking about spring sewing and my idea of spring cleaning with no cleaning involved, just cleaning out the things, that maybe old habits that we have, starting a new habit or learning something new. So that's the part of the spring that I wanted to show today with our CM17. And if you're watching and you have a different machine, some of the things that are in this machine are in other machines too. So it could mean, it could be the same. I'm going to turn off my air. I had put it on because it got a little warm in here earlier. So if you're out there, if you want to say hello, you're welcome to say hello. I did put my comments, I'm going to try to move them so I can see them better on there. So I want to start with a few of my favorite things with the CM17. And I mean, what's not to love? I have a hard time. I did the one on embroidery and I could never, I can't stop because there's always so many great things. But so I'm going to switch over. I do have my camera. You can see it right there. I have my camera up. So I'm going to switch over to that view and talk to you about a few things on the outside of our CM17 before we get to the fun inside parts. All right. Oh, hi, Marty. Welcome. I'll tell you, I was up there in the Northwest PA over, I want to say over the weekend, but when you start an event on a Monday and end on a Wednesday, I'm so confused. I thought yesterday was a Saturday or a Sunday. I'm so confused. But anyways, it was so windy up there when I got up there on Sunday. But I did see some beautiful sunsets, and I've been told Erie has the best sunsets anywhere. So they really, truly, they were just beautiful, beautiful sunsets. All right, so let me put on my camera. Let's see if I can find it here. And hopefully things will be okay. There we go. Oh, good. It's on. And I got to move my chair so we don't trip over that. And I'll bring my comments over too so I can see what everyone else is doing. Hi, Eileen. Welcome. All right, there. Now we got my comments over here. So I wanted to start with some of the things on the outside of our CM17. And I want to start back here. I'm going to swing the camera around and walk it around. This is always dangerous for me when I move the camera. So on the back of mine, I have the 5-thread spool stand. And the reason I like this, and I don't know if I can get close with this camera, let me turn it this way, there we go. I like these little clips here. They slide and hold the fabric the thread in place. So when you're not sewing, like here, they're closed and holding the thread up here. So your thread doesn't dangle down and get anywhere. This one I'm using, so I can leave it open. I can close it partially, and then I need to get it off of here. It was stuck on there. And then you can use it. There's no screws involved. There's a little storage unit right here on your machine. You take it off and put this on. This is really, I know it could be a little bit pricey, but it's so invaluable. I love it. I mean, it's so handy. I keep my most used threads back here, and then I can have 2 more over here that I'm working with, so I don't have to change threads so often. So I really, really like that part of it. It's an extra thing. It doesn't come with the machine. And then, of course, you all know I love the magnets that go across here, so I can put my tools, and I have my little needle minder that I made over here. And this, it's neat, is the back of this has a little metal on it, so it will stick. So that's kind of nice. I like that. And of course, I do like the little slots here for putting your items in as you're sewing. All right, let me come down this way, and we'll talk about a few other things. Some of you might have some favorites that you like too as we go along. If you want to post those, you can. There we go. Yeah, I do. That thread holder, I do like it. The other thing is, and I don't get to close my machine very often, but I do like the lid on this and the way it opens. You don't have to like try to find a spot to put your finger somewhere. You can just push the open button. And if you're one who gets to close your machine, I just have too many things on the top of mine, so I don't close mine. And just for fun, I do love the screensaver on my machine. There's my little posy girl, and that just makes me so happy to be able to boop her on the nose. All right, so we're going to start with the big screen and just talking a little bit generally about it, and then we'll delve in and look at some more things as well. Now, one of the things they changed is right here, we do have our adjust screen, and you can open it right here like that, and you can make all your adjustments. And sometimes there's more things to change and sometimes less, depending on what you have. But then this whole thing is right over here in the front of your machine, right here. So while you're working, you can look straight ahead. You don't have to like look to the side, and even you don't even have to reach to the side to move your needle. And let me see if I can get this to zoom in a little bit better here. It doesn't like my fingers for zooming, so there it goes. Okay, so right here, this is the thumb wheel, and it raises and lowers your needle without piercing your fabric. So you can, and it's a thumb wheel, but you can use any finger really. It brings your needle down and brings your needle back up. So your needle up, needle down button that's back up here, right here, that button will go all the way down into your bobbin area and then come back up. So this way, if we wanted to lower our needle just to find a pinpoint on a fabric or something like that, we don't pierce our fabric. So that's a nice feature. I do like that. And for those of us who want to turn knobs, there are knobs here. I sort of forget that they're there because I'm so used to touching the screen on here that that's usually where my go-to. And you can either tap these to move them like that, or you can hold the cursor right on there and it'll slide up and down. You can slide them up and down like this as well. And the little dots there, when they're all the same color, that means it's in the default position. This one is a slightly different color. It's not in the default position. So there we go. If you make changes, of course, right here and over here, you can change back to your default settings. So if you think, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Sometimes we make tweaks and we're like, I don't know what's happening. You can easily put it back that way. Now, one of the things when we first got the CM17 I was very excited about is the menu system. I like to call it, I kind of coined it menu forward. So pretty much it's not like something is buried in a menu. Now everything is right here on the screen to start with, and then you can open some of these to go in other places. And starting at the top, we do have our house button. We've always had a home or a little house button. And when you touch this gives us our modes where we can go from ordinary sewing to sewing applications and to embroidery mode. So that's very easy navigating on that part of it. We're just going to go back. This little one is our go back button. So if you've picked something, oh, I want to go back there, you can come here if you're on a different page. These things stay up here the whole time. The little go back, the house, and the three. This is like somebody called the hamburger button or the 3-line button. This gives you some more information. The quick stitch select, and I'll tell you something that I'd rather use. Quilt Block Advisor is in here. Of course, we do have that. We can put it on our PCs as well, but they give you 6 blocks in here to play with, which are kind of interesting when you get around to working with those. I'm just going to close that. That Quilt Block Advisor is where you can pick a size of your block, and it will tell you what size blocks to cut and then how to sew them together. You'll find some of that information in the PC applications pack that comes with your machine. I think you access it through a QR code in your Quick Start Guide. Also in the AccuAssist app that you can put on your phone or your Android phone has information there as well. But the reason I really opened this is for right here, the manual dual feed setting. And that's for when you use your AccuFeed and you want to use a stitch other than the straight stitches that when you turn the AccuFeed on and you touch the little icon, it grays out everything else on the screen. So except for those stitches that they recommend for AccuFeed. With your manual setting, you can turn it on, and then when you turn it on, you don't have to touch the icon anymore. Right here is where you can adjust your dual feed balance. Now, what that means, we used to have a little knob over here, and people don't really realize what it's for. It's much like the differential on your serger. And if you use a serger, you know that. It helps even out the balance of the fabric flowing under there with the feed dogs by adjusting the dual up or down, depending on what's happening. And if you check your manual, it shows you, if things are curling up, you turn it one way, and if it's stretching the other way, you can use a different number. Now, when you have the normal AccuFeed on for the straight stitches, there's a way to change that as well, and I'll show you that. And for those of us that need to know some machine information, you can come in right here. It's under the 3-line menu. Very easy to find. Here's your version, hours on, hours sewing, and your ID on here. Okay. There we go. And let me see who's out there. Hi, Donna. Let's see. Oh, yes, somebody answered that. Thank you. Our Janome person on duty today. All right, let me close. Oh, the other thing down here. So this is how, we sometimes forget that things are under that 3-line menu. So you might want to spend a little time one day just touching a lot of things on your machine. You can't do anything wrong. Just turn it off, turn it back on. How can anything go wrong? These two icons move the little connector. Move the connector on your embroidery arm. So if you want it all the way to the back or in the middle, if you're packing it, you'd want it in the middle. You can move it out of the way by touching one of these, and it'll automatically. I'm not going to touch it. I have things in the way right now, but it will move that out of your way so you don't have it up front. Anytime, and then once you're done in here, you can just hit the OK, and it closes that menu, and you're back to where you are. Now here is let me go back in because I want to turn this off. There we go. And OK. And you're going to see I went back to the regular foot. If I turn my dual feed on, which is this one here, okay, it gives me a little message. I do love these little messages. They're good reminders. And it grays out everything I can't use, correct? And it gives me a new option right here. This is the dual feed balance I was talking about, and I can make changes to it right here. Depending on what I'm sewing, I can make changes to it. Okay, so it shows up in both our straight stitches, which it's made for, and we can use it along with our decorative stitches as well. Now, another cool fact, and we'll be talking about, I think along the way, favorite stitch. This is the favorite stitch adjustment is one of my favorite things when they brought this up, because favorite stitch saves right to your machine, right at the stitch, rather than in a menu somewhere you have to go find it. Because I used to have little stickies on my machine with, like, oh, this is my favorite this or my favorite that. So if I made some changes here to this first stitch or any of these stitches here, let's just say I changed the length of my stitch, and this is the combination I like. I like my AccuFeed set at 4 because everything I sew, I've been changing it to a 4. This works out. Everything is all right here. When I open this, let's see what happens. Right down here, I have favorite stitch. Now, if you don't see that, I'm going to show you how to turn it on. And how to set it in there is you're going to put it in the folder. See how it shows in the folder. And then you can come up here. See, you can set it in 2 different positions. Plus, you can also have the default. Now, when I close this, you'll notice, see, there's little brackets. That means every time I come to that stitch, I'm going to go back out and back to it, that it will pick up those options for me. So it will make those changes. I don't have to go in and select anything else. It's all right there for me. I can set it all back to default like that. That just sets it to the default stitch. It hasn't erased my settings. Oh, maybe it did. Wait a minute, let me look here. Nope, they're still in here. So there are my settings. So I could come in here and I could select that, and my settings, I would have my settings again that I wanted. There we go. So they still stay in there. You can delete them. Let me go back in. If you want to delete anything, select your trash can, select here, and then it deletes those out of there. So then you're all set with that. But that favorite stitch is very important. I really, really love the favorite stitch. Let me turn off my AccuFeed. There we go. And that, all right. You know, as we were over here, I did forget to talk about stitch plates because I do love that they are magnetic and we only have to touch the screen, lock the screen here, and pop this open. And out it comes, and we can push it back in. I'm going to let it close on its own. There we go. Because I wanted you to see that. We're going to go back into the set mode. I can show you something about that as well. We're all done. I can unlock and get back into my stuff. It's so easy to change a plate now, no pushing it down or anything. I do want to make one quick warning. If you have a Ultra Glide plate from a previous machine, do not use it in your CM17. The plates for the CM17, because they're magnetic, have different sensors on the bottom. So you can get it in there and jam it down. I've done it, but you'll have to use the quick release, and you'll look in the manual for that, but you'll have to take your embroidery unit off, and under here, there's a place, I think it's here or over here, you put your screwdriver and you turn, and it will pop up the plate for you manually. So don't use the Ultra Glide from your previous machine. Make sure you use the proper one for the CM17. They do make one. There's that. I'm trying to think. There was one other thing that's specific to, bobbin cases as well are specific to the CM17 because of the optical bobbin sensor. And who doesn't love that? How many times you can get right down to the very end of a bobbin. I love that. We were doing that at my event. We were playing bobbin chicken with our embroidery, and man, it brings it right down to, I said about 12 to 18 inches in there. Isn't that great? I love it. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about right here, the set mode. I always mention this a lot of times, even when I'm out working a sales booth, I mention the set mode, because you know what's nice? This is what I say about it. It is the way to tailor the machine to do the things you want it to do. Okay, you might like your volume up high, or maybe you don't even like the volume. I've been at places where the instructor's gone and turned off all the volumes on our machine, and like, they're not, to me, I grew up with those beeps, and I loved hearing those beeps, because in a classroom, when I hear the machine beeping like that, I know you're touching it and you're playing with it, and to me, I leave it on there. So you can change some things this is the things that changed for the whole machine. I have my clock on, but it does not give the right time because I did not take the little plastic off the battery, so it does give the wrong time. You can work in inches or millimeter if you like. Your bobbin warning, if you don't like that warning come up, if you don't want your machine to tell you what to do, you can turn that off and not have it tell you what it wants to do. Your standby timer is how long the screen will stay lit while it's on. And so mine, I have it about 20 minutes or so. You can have it more or less, whatever you like. This would put the screensaver on for me. And here's the, when you have the screensaver on or off, you can turn it on there. This here's important too. You can set that to automatically turn your machine off after a certain amount of time. It actually clicks off, and your machine will be off at that point. I mean, how many of us have been working and it's time to make dinner. We leave our machine, we run up to the kitchen, we're working, doing stuff. Maybe we end up going out to dinner, and we're 3 hours later and we come back, and oh man, if you don't like your machine on that long, you can see I like mine on for 7 hours, and because I'm always in and out of this room. But you can set it for less, maybe 2 hours or 3 hours, and it will turn itself off automatically for you. Now you'll have your resume turned on so that when you come back, it will resume to your sewing side or your embroidery side, whatever you were working on last. It's so smart. I love it. All right, let's go to another page. your lighting. Now I have some of my lights turned off because it films better that way. But and over the weekend we were using the machine and the light was a little bit bright for someone, so I turned one of these off. So you can definitely do that. You can change the brightness of those lights as well. And of course, if that needle plate lifter is too quick for you, you can change that here. This here is very important. I set mine at 5. I want to wind bobbins fast. I want to get them done. But if I was winding a delicate thread or a monofilament thread, I would set it at a slow speed because monofilament stretches and you don't want to stretch it out on a high speed because it will crush the core of that bobbin and you won't be able to get off your bobbin winder. Sometimes it breaks and you're going to have to cut the monofilament off and peel it away. So if you're doing monofilament, come in here and change the speed on there. The next one up, if we needed to set things back to default, we could just hit here. Maybe you made some changes and you're not sure, you can make them there. Moving on, these are the sewing side. I covered the embroidery side and the Wi-Fi part on my last one, but there's a couple things here I want to point out. Your thread cut off after auto lock. When you touch the lock button on the front of your machine, after sewing, it will, when you turn it on here, it will automatically, whenever you've set your auto lock with a decorative stitch or something, it will automatically cut that thread. I don't really like that because sometimes when I'm sewing in a decorative thread and I stop, if I stop sometimes it's cut the thread when I didn't want it to. So I have it turned off because I want to be in charge of when that thread gets cut, but you might like it on. Give it a try and see how it works. Down here, this tension here, this is the auto tension for the whole sewing side of the machine. When you change the tension over in this area, okay, that's for that particular stitch that you're working on. So pretty much I leave this at auto, and if I have to adjust per my project, I'll adjust in the screen here. Okay, if you sew something the same all the time, you use the same fabric, the same threads, maybe you're a huge piecer or whatever, and you're always, you can adjust the tension on this machine. It's not a no-no anymore. You can do it. And you can set it back with the default button, so it doesn't really matter. You can reset it here so that you don't have to keep changing it, okay? Same thing with the foot pressure. The height of the pivoting. How many of us, raise your hands, how many of us do applique, but not in the hoop of our machine? I know it's hard to go back to that after you've been with the machine, but if you do hand-guided applique, which I like to do too, you can, and even for doing your piecing, you can set the height of that foot when it pivots, when it lifts up, you can set the height of that. So if you want to sew up closer to your pins and not have the foot come way up high, to be closer like this so it distorts less and your needle is down, you can come in here and set it lower or higher, whichever you like. All right, adjustable speed. I feel the need for speed. I want these the fastest they can go. They're preset in the middle. I want that thread sensor on because if I break a thread, I want to know. I want this turned on, though, if I get to the end of a seam and my sensor goes off and I know I've got 3 stitches left, I can quickly come here and turn it off, sew my 3 stitches and bring it and put it back on. I like this to remind me if it's going to delete that. And this here is assist in inserting, removing fabric. That is when right now ours is set so that the feed dogs drop down so we can get things underneath the feed dogs, underneath the foot better. So that's what that means. If you don't like them dropping, you can come in here and turn it off. It's automatically set to drop. I like that feature because then my fabric doesn't rub on the feed dogs. If you're doing any variable zigzag this is helpful, these 2 things, if you're using your ASR. And we will have other educators doing some ASR demos, so you'll be able to learn a little bit more about it from them. And then here's that favorite stitch adjustment right here. Turn it on, make sure it's on, and then make sure your resume mode is turned on. okay? And then see if you wanted to delete every favorite stitch that you had, you could do that there. Once you've made all your changes, you just have to touch OK. Everything is saved now, and my machine is tailored to what I like to do. And of course, yours can be just like you like to do. All right, now if you ever need any extra lessons, you can always touch the question mark. And there's some, little pictures in here on how to do some of these things. Most of us know that, but you might have that day when you don't remember how to do something, or you're like, am I doing it right? You can check it there. You can also go to your AccuAssist app and check it there. It's like a little manual in your hand. I'd show you, but I'm using my phone at the time. Okay, let's talk about a couple stitches and we'll move along. Let me see where I am as far as timing. We are doing pretty good. Okay, so your machine always opens to your utility page. We talked about the things up here. This is more of that menu forward. These are your utility stitches, your decorative stitches, your alphabet that's built in on the sewing side, and these are your tapering stitches. They kind of grouped them together. They're not going to show under your decorative here. And so under utility, you have two choices. You have your utility and your buttonhole stitches. These are always up there, okay? In the middle here are your stitches, and I want to point out these two stitches here I really like. I wish number 2 was in place of number 1 because I would like to use it every single time. And what this stitch does is it does 4 stitches forward, 4 stitches back, and it continues to sew. When you get to the end of your seam, you press the reverse over there, not the one here, and it will back up 4 stitches and go forward 4 stitches and stop, all on its own. If you're using your foot control, you want to make sure you keep your pressure on all the way. Even after you press that reverse, keep your pressure on it so it'll go backwards and forwards. It'll do its finishing and it'll stop. Okay, I sew with my stop button, so it works, just perfectly. I'm going to move over to show you that. This one is the locking stitch at the beginning and the end. It gives you an extra feature here. Look at this. If you think there's too many locks at the beginning or the end, you can change them right here. Or you can change them right in front of the screen right here. So I'm going to go back to the stitch number 2, and I'm going to try to get my zoom in enough so you can see this. Let's see here. I have a little sample fabric. All right. So I'm just going to start here. I have my speed pretty slow so you can see this. Maybe I'll go in a little bit closer. There we go. And I'm going to start it, and you'll see it come forward. And then it's going to continue to come forward until I press the reverse. I'm going to press the reverse now. And it'll stop automatically. Isn't that great? And then I just hit my thread cutter and I'm all done. Let me show you those stitches up close. Look at that. There are 4 stitches right on top of each other. Same thing down here. Beautiful, beautiful stitches. I would love to use, if that was number 1, I have to remind myself now that I want to go to stitch number 2 because it gives a beautiful, if I'm piecing, I won't be using that, but a lot of other things that I do, I could use that little bit of reverse. I do like that. So let me get my camera back into its normal position. All right, and I just want to show a couple things. We all know the M and the L and the R, what that means, right? It's middle, left, or right. So this stitch starts more on the right, goes left. This one is stranded over the middle, and this one would be a left on the left side. Easy to remember, easy peasy. Okay, so now here's something I really love that they put on this machine. Does anybody touch this little paper down here? Most of the time when we want a decorative stitch, we go up there to the wiggly thing, right? Now I can say just touch the paper. There, I touch the paper. All my stitches are here, 15 pages of them. I can move in either direction. And my mirage are there. My created stitches are here. These are ones I create with Stitch Composer. I can, go through here, and if this is the one I want, a little dog, I can just select it. How easy is that? So these are easier for me to see, so I love that. From your AccuAssist app, when you're connected wirelessly, you can send from your AccuAssist app as well. Isn't that genius? It really is. So I'm going to go back here because I want to show you these bridge stitches right here. I'm going to open up the bridge stitches. Does anybody know what they are? You can shout it out. Just shout out loud what they are. And so what these are is when you're doing a decorative stitch and you want to leave a space between them, this will leave a number of stitches between your design that you're doing. Now, personally now I would use them. I really like Mirage because then it doesn't show any of these stitches, but you might not be able to work on a fold. So this would give you the option of having these stitches between it. And you can, depending on the stitch that you're using, that if it has a locking stitch in it, which most of them do, you can trim these away afterwards if you need to. Down here, these ones here that are 2, 4, and here, what they do, these will just look at your stitch and then it will add like 1 stitch after 2, 3, and 6. Here it looks at the needle position of that stitch from the start to finish, and it adds those stitches in that same length amount. So there'd be 2 at that length and 4 at that length and 2 at that length. So that's what those are for. This is for a space. If you want to leave a space between the lettering, between a design, if you don't want stitches between a design, you just want a space, you can do that. And of course, you can add a locking stitch right there. Let's look here for a minute. Okay, look at these. I'm just looking to see what pops up at the bottom. A lot of times when you're touching your stitches, you'll see things highlight down here. If you turn on your combination, you'll get a few more stitches there. What I want to show you is I'm going to go back and show you a cool thing with with favorite stitch. And I'm going to go back to my quilt. Where is my favorite? Here we go. One more. All right. This page. I'm going to go to, where's my stitch? Or maybe it's under heirloom. Here we go. We're going to go there. And I'm going to turn on the combination. See this here? See how, oops, let me take that off. This here, this is to make it look like a wonky hand sewn stitch. It's a hand style right there. But I want to show you something you can do with the tapering. So we're going to click out of here really quick so I could show you that. I'm okay with that. And then we are in our tapering. I'm going to choose a tapering stitch, and then I'm going to come down here to where the taper is. Now I played with this one day and I used the 60 degree at one end and 60 at the other, but I just wanted one rotation in the middle. So you can touch here and or touch the number, sorry, and you get one rotation, or you can add. I just want one, and okay. And what I can do is I can save that as a favorite stitch. And it will fill in, I'm going to go back and look at it fills in all those numbers for me, the 60, the 1, and the 60. So it saves that for me. So when I come here, it'll be that stitch. And the reason for that, why I wanted that, is I was making this design where it looked like this was a bead, and then I made another stitch, maybe this one, and I went back into my tapering, and I did the 60 and the 1 and the 60 again, and okay, and I could do a folder there, but I'm going to do it down here in here. All right, so now what I can do is I could stitch that one, and then I could go to this one and stitch that one. And I could go back and forth just like that. So I don't have to keep going back and changing it. This made my little design so much fun to do. It's like little beads. I could actually put other little designs in here and come back and get another one. So it was kind of a fun thing to do. So this is where favorite stitch changes a few things for you, and can add things on there. You can add your locking stitches turned on here. You can turn it off if you don't want a locking stitch. That's up to you. sometimes at the end, if I was going to stitch this and then something else, I might not want a locking stitch there. I don't want that bulk. So I could turn off the locking stitch at the end. So make sure you play with, get out your manual if you need to, or just get out your stylus and touch things and play a little ways so you get used to your machine. Maybe you'll discover something new in the spring, which is a great thing. I think I've covered everything. I'm going to check my comments to see if anybody has questions. I'll give you a moment to see if you do have questions. Let's see. Okay, everybody's pretty good. I'll wait like a half a second. I'm going to go turn on the camera on the other side. So put my chair back because we are at about a half hour. Oh, we are. Yep. Okay, switch to this camera. There we go. So hopefully that inspires you to not just use straight stitch on your machine, right? To play with those decorative stitches or even your straight stitch. You might have a straight stitch that you like for top stitching. You might have one that you like for your seaming. Even in your quilt. Oh, I didn't even do, hang on, I got to go back. I meant to do sewing applications because I wanted to talk about that. Hold on. I want to show you two things. Sorry, I had notes and then I kind of went away from my notes. I'm going to go to the, out of here, to this one and then this one. On your applique stitches, they have the, the R, L, and the M, so we know that. But one of the things when you turn on your applique stitches, the ones here, you'll notice there's an extra piece, an extra number right here. This is the needle position of your applique. So if you put your foot down and you need to snug the stitch closer, you can touch here and it will move it over. This moves it over. This is the length of your stitch. See how it's getting longer? And this is the width. So you can see that bite's getting a little bit bigger that way. This is really handy. Well, if you're using the applique foot, yes. And even with your F foot, if you struggle and get everything under your foot and realize that if you could only move that over like 2 clicks, it would be right next to your fabric. Now you got to lift the foot, move everything out of the way to get it where you want it. Now you can just use this. And we've had this a little while, but I always like to mention that so people can get used to using it. When we go in here, of course, we have our sewing applications. I'll probably come back and do a little bit more on this, but these are a little sewing helper. So if you're doing something on the sewing side, maybe you want to do the shell tuck, it sets everything for you. But Janome is so nice. Even though it says this is what they want you to use, you have all the options below to make your own changes. So you are still the person in charge of your machine. I find that very handy. Blind hem is here. You want to do it on a stretch. It makes changes down here. Even there's some little arrows here telling you about what these mean on there. We have our quilting things, especially our ruler work. And if we're going to use our ASR, we would have to have our ASR plugged in and then select it. And then we have our feet applications over here. So if you have the beading foot, it shows you automatic settings for that and so forth. So sometimes if you sit in front of your machine and play a little bit of discovery with it, you might find new things that you didn't know were there or refresh things that have been there all along. So let me get my comments over here and then I'll go back to the camera and say a proper goodbye. Let's see what's here. All right, here we go. All right, everyone. So thank you for joining me today. I hope this was helpful and inspires you to, use a little bit more than your straight stitch or that one favorite decorative stitch that we have. Use that little piece of paper at the bottom. I mean, that is like genius. I mean, you still have to page through, but you get to see pretty much the whole combination, all the stitches in that category, which is a lovely thing to have, I'm sure. And remember, we can make our changes right on that screen in the front. That took us a little while to get used to because we're used to going over here and doing our work. We can look straight forward now and keep our hands on our work and just make our changes right up there. I'm going to check here to see if there's any questions that I missed. Nothing. If you think of something, you can always post down below. I do get tagged on that, so I can come back and answer it, or one of my wonderful Janome colleagues will come and answer it as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. It is finally the weekend, right? It's Friday, so enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for joining me in the studio.